Okay, dear friends in Dhamma, we are going to start the second Dhamma discussion of this Kalalgoda English Medium retreat. So as usual, Chandrika is ready with the written questions and reports. So we will start the session with written reports.
Avasarai Bhante, we have received 6 reports today.
Yeah.
Report number 1. Venerable Bhante, how does one switch to Vedananupassana from Kayanupassana? Please explain how a yogi should practice the feeling meditation. Much merit to you, Bhante.
Yeah, let it happen naturally. So rather than we purposely, intentionally switching from Kayanupassana to Vedananupassana, better it is being switched naturally. And again, it is not a must. Sometimes we think, okay, it is a must to do comprehensive Vedananupassana. It's must to do the comprehensive Kayanupassana. So we may have such kind of an idea, but the yogis may spend different time allocations or different time periods in different anupassana. So, I mean, typically we might think, okay, 25% Kayanupassana, 25% Vedananupassana, 25% Chittanupassana, 25% Dhammanupassana, altogether 100% Satipatthana. So that might be one solution we may have. But it can vary. One can do that as well, but it can vary. It depends on the person. We can't have a pre-plan how long that I have to spend Kayanupassana, how long I may spend in Vedana, how long I would spend in Chitta, how long I would spend Dhammanupassana. That all depends. That all vary. So therefore, we can't have a pre-schedule in our meditation, but better start with Kayanupassana. That we all can accept. There are many benefits in that. There are practical advantages in starting with Kayanupassana. And Kayanupassana and Vedananupassana are very close to each other. Now, you know that at the Kayanupassana, we are giving prominence to the Rupa Upadanakkhandha, the form aggregate. And the Vedananupassana, we give prominence to the Vedana Upadanakkhandha, the feeling aggregate. But anyway, all these 5 aggregates are happening at the same time. So don't think that while you are doing Kayanupassana, all other aggregates are absent. They are there. Thoughts are still there. The perceptions are still there. Signs are still there. So everything else is there, but we give prominence to the body. That's why we are practicing Kayanupassana. That is easy also. But still other aggregates are also present. And switching from Kayanupassana to Vedananupassana may happen naturally. Now say for example, as you practice Kayanupassana, you may start with from different levels. Say understanding some body awareness, developing awareness at different postures. So you are trying to be with the body and reducing thinking, unnecessary thinking, and being with the body, being aware of various postures, posture junctions. And then more and more you being with the body, probably you can recognize various bodily processes and say various body parts. And recognizing various bodily processes invite us to further be with those processes, to experience, or we can say, search or examine those processes like breathing. So we are carefully examining the process, maybe various bodily element characteristics. We are closely examining those characteristics. So very close examination. Investigation is promoted during the Kayanupassana. Now, so what's the difference between hardness, softness, roughness, smoothness? So that kind of elements characteristics. And what's the difference between happy feeling, pleasurable feeling, painful feeling, equanimous feeling? So that is actually the way that we are looking at. So at one level we may look at from a very equanimous way that these are certain manifestations of the elements. At another level we may think, okay, this body feels happiness, this body feels pleasure, this body feels some kind of a pain, this body feels an equanimous feeling. But anyway, that is how we interpret, that is how we give the prominence. At one level we give prominence to the Rupakkhandha and we interpret it as elements manifestation. At another level we give emphasis to the feeling aggregate Vedana, and then we define, okay, this is a pleasurable feeling, this is a painful feeling, like that. But anyway, assume that we are doing both. So what would be the ultimate result? Ultimate result is you feel dispassionate towards the bodily processes if you are practicing Kayanupassana. You feel dispassionate towards the feelings when you are practicing Vedananupassana. Ultimately, the dispassion is the result, or the disenchantment is the result, and leaving everything aside and keeping the mind at a different level, unattached level, independent level is the result. So, irrespective of your practice Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana, we are ending up, or we are resulted in a common platform. That is the unattached state of mind. So, which part are you spending most of the time? It depends. So, one person may spend fair amount of time in Kayanupassana and might switch to Chittanupassana without much time spending in Vedananupassana. Possible. Because he might have covered a fairly comprehensive time and details while in the Kayanupassana. So, more advantages or benefits that he needs to gain already available through Kayanupassana. So automatically, say while in the walking, say he start watching the mind, and it's also a beautiful activity, and he start doing it, and now he is switching more into the Chittanupassana and Dhammanupassana, maybe leaving aside even the Kayanupassana, possible. And maybe during one session, you may go through or navigate all 4 Anupassana, that's also possible. So all different combinations are there. So the point is therefore how naturally the mind is evolving from all these. How well it is behaving in all these different Anupassana. Whatever the Anupassana you are dealing with, behaving with, observing it or investigating with, all are contributing fair amount of mindfulness, concentration, wisdom to ourselves, we can say. So, natural switching from Kayanupassana to Vedananupassana would be much better, but it is not a forceful switching, purposeful switching. I don't like to say we need to purposefully switch to Vedananupassana. Then we are very much like programming the mind, conditioning the mind. Say, for example, you were practicing Dhatu Manasikara and many different types of elements, characteristics were there, and you were observing them, carefully investigating them. At one point you feel, okay, it's too much. I mean, why not I switch into Vedananupassana? It is only just 3 types, no? Easy, no? I mean, rather than observing 12 types of element characteristics, why don't I switch to 3 types of bodily feelings? If you want to look at the mind also, now there is pleasantness, or we can say happiness, and little worry, sometimes unhappiness. So that also you can be included. Then we are into Vedananupassana, body and the mind. So why don't I switch into that? So that kind of a natural instinct might help you to switch. That's all right. Not that someone is telling, okay, you better practice 1 week Kayanupassana, another week Vedananupassana, something like that. Or telling, okay, in the morning you practice Kayanupassana, in the evening you practice Vedananupassana. I feel that kind of an artificial schedule might not be necessary. Allowing the mind to decide it, once it is naturally going through the practice, might be better. That's what I feel more appropriate.
Bhante, I feel Kayanupassana and Vedananupassana is a mixture of feelings, like,
we can
isn't
say
it?
so.
Yeah,
That's what I also feel now. There is no huge demarcation between these two.
Yeah.
Because body and the feelings are fairly merged, fairly coincident, very much like. Overlaps are there. Because bodily pain and bodily pleasures, even the bodily equanimous feelings, very much similar to the hardness, softness, but the way that we are looking at them is the difference. Now say, when the body feels hard or soft or rough or vibrations, one can interpret it as an equanimous feeling. One can interpret, I feel happy. But the body is going through some kind of a vibration, maybe.
That's right.
Isn't it?
Sometimes the vibrations also, as you start also Kayanupassana, you
available,
experience vibrations.
You might like it or you might don't like it. And how about looking at that like or dislike and interpreting it as a feeling may be possible. So therefore, that's why there is no huge demarcation between these two experiences. So it depends on the yogi. So sometimes people emphasize on sensations and looking at the sensations, like in the Goenka system, more into the sensations. But still the sensations also come because of these little manifestations happen at the elements level. Because this body consists of various elements and they interact or they behave differently and we feel them as sensations, we feel them as feelings. That's all right. But the interesting other thing is ultimately everything will be merged or everything mixed and everything appear like a mixture, like a flux. Then you feel disenchanted. I don't want it. I mean the mind naturally let it go. So therefore it is not that we are trying to write a thesis on Kayanupassana and finding more and more detail to include in that thesis while practicing Kayanupassana. It is not that we do practice Vedananupassana and recognizing so many different kinds of feelings and write a report on that. I mean that may be one side that is also necessary at one level, but at a given level it will switch. Recognizing more and more details and ultimately you go into another side of the graph. Not that continuously you are going and high in the graph, rather at one level it start going to another side.
Report number 2. Dear Bhante, every time I commence meditation on Anapanasati, my mind automatically shifts to Anitya Sanya. I find it very difficult to do beyond that. My mind always picks the Anicca Sanya. Is anything wrong with that?
May I know who has written it? Anicca Sanya? Yeah. Can you come forward, please? There's a beautiful song going on. Anyone distracted? Yeah, I mean, so how you feel Anicca?
I don't know, every time I start with the breath, feel of the breath, my mind automatically switch for Anitta.
So are you murmuring it is impermanent, unsatisfactory and suffering, right? Non-self, murmuring, kind of repeating it?
Yes, the mind
internally, mind is talking like that? Not that you really understood it.
No, through understanding only. My mind just switched to it.
No, now repeating the mind, telling impermanent is
Anicca.
one thing. But keeping the mind very quiet and seeing how things are being impermanent is another thing.
Yeah. So I think the mind keeps repeating it's impermanent.
Repeating it's impermanent. The word is there. So can't you calm it down?
Possible. But again, after some time, it comes.
Again, it comes in. But anyway, it is not a harmful thing. So certain amount of deliberate emphasis is given to the impermanence rather than you yourself seeing it, experiencing it. So what is important is to have a very quiet mind, which is not having any kind of a vitakka, not having any kind of a thought, and such mind experiencing impermanent. So that's the best. So because we don't need to do anything to make anything impermanent, because they are intrinsically impermanent. Naturally they are impermanent, so we need to learn how by observing their behavior. Say for example, if you are applying it to the breathing, so breathing may change and manifest in many different ways, and if you are trying to understand the element characteristics, all that elements also going to be changed, and you are simply observing, isn't it? So you are a very impartial observer while they are jumping from this to that, and then you understand, oh my goodness, it's impermanent, no, it's obvious, no. So you don't need to repeat, impermanent. So that's not necessary. We are not forcefully trying to make anything impermanent. Rather, we being witnessing how things are impermanent. So hope you can. But this is not a. This is not a bad thing, by the way. What's happening right now, mind want to forcefully understand like something, but slowly, you might feel it is kind of a burden. You might feel it is kind of a friction in the mind. So you don't need to talk like that. Okay, just be quiet. Okay, just be quiet.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Report number 3. Most respected Bhante, I worship Bhante and wish to share few experiences, please. Walking meditation. Most of the time manage to walk without thoughts and plan not to close the eyes at the end of the walking path. But sometimes I realize that I have closed the eyes without my intentions. Sitting meditation. Calm state maintained, but dark place not experienced today. Few thoughts came and went, but was not disturbed. Sometimes I felt all are like dreams. During the guided meditation time, sometimes I felt all are like dreams. During guided meditation, twice experienced sudden shock in the body. I felt that the mindfulness level has increased day to day. Involved in most of the activities and enjoyed those. No proliferation after listening to others. Sometimes now I feel nothing to tell about this peaceful journey and only required to practice more. However, I always wish to get Bhante's valuable advice, and still my experiences depend on the Dhamma sermons I listen and continuous advices. I humbly request Bhante's advice, please. Theruvan Saranai.
Yes? Yeah. So this experience in darkness, something, so with that we don't need to expect. So sometimes it can happen, and sometimes it may not happen. So sometimes the faculties has to attune towards some sort of a balance. Then complete darkness may be available, but sometimes we can't achieve such a beautiful balance, proper balance. Then we may simply navigate in the surface. So darkness does not represent really a real depth as such, but no any thoughts and no any signs in the mind, and maybe mind in a very peaceful state. So no signs might appear like darkness, because signs, that signs represent something, but signless represent nothing. Nothing is there to represent. So no signs at all, or mind does not acquire signs or access any signs. So mind prefers the signless. So just stay there, just be there. That's all from our side what we can do. Just maintain that signless. But how much effort are we putting? How much effort are we exerting? So that is the area we probably can develop. So at the beginning we are maintaining certain amount of effort, because there may be a possibility that mind start getting the signs again, or mind starts enjoying certain thoughts again. So we are a little bit of alert. We are maintaining certain purposeful alert with effort to avoid it. But the development is very much like you are becoming more and more relaxed, more and more no effort like. So you keep the mind completely effortless, completely free. You allow it to play if it want. But while we give such a freedom, so there may be thoughts, there may be signs that also we may have to notice and abandon, so that slowly those are weakened and abandoned. Now still the mind is at the surface without an effort, but no signs, no thoughts. So likewise we have to come to a almost like no effort zone. We were at a effortful zone, maintaining a little bit of concentration, maintaining certain effort. So because certain amount of impact is coming from the defilement, so we want to stop them, so we are maintaining fair amount of effort. But gradually we need to reduce the effort, and we are taking a risk in a way. Because when we are reducing the effort, we become vulnerable to the defilements. Let them come, let the thoughts come, let the, say, defilements or the signs would come, but we notice them. We are not promoting them. We see them, recognize them, abandon them. So further and further, becoming effortless. So actually, I heard one Dhamma sermon from Ajahn Sumedho. He says, Samma Vayama is no effort. It's a very radical type of a statement. Samma Vayama is no effort. So almost like you have to come to a no effort level. I also was a little wondered at the beginning, but later I understood, yes, isn't it? That's the correct thing. So when, now say for example, when someone becomes an arahant, so is he maintaining certain effort to avoid defilement? So he simply moves freely. Maybe he is involved with talking, maybe involved with the pindapata, maybe preaching and dealing with other, whatever the work. There is no kind of an effort to maintain the mind defilement free. It is not there. Almost like no effort. So therefore, it's a very beautiful way that he is interpreting it. So we have to come to that no effort zone. The thing has to be almost like effortless. So are we able to maintain the mind completely effortless, still having no defilements, still having no thoughts, it's still having no signs? I am not telling that all the signs, all the thoughts we should prohibit. There is no such kind of extremist view either. But if we wish, we should be able to maintain like that. Now, say for example, the definition for signless, how one would attain the signless samadhi, animitta samadhi. So, explained as in the Mahavedalla Sutta, sabba nimittanang amanasikaro, animittayacha dhatuya manasikaro. So, we have to have some kind of a skill to avoid picking the signs altogether. No more signs. So mind does not take any signs. And now it is switching to the signless. So that means already the signless state, something has to be something available, something tangible for you, something familiar to you. That won't happen immediately. So we have to go through a fair amount of practice and understanding this impermanence particularly. As a result of that, mind does not pick the signs now because things are quite transient, quite rapidly changing. You can't pick the signs now. You can't see the color or shape or whatever those characteristics. Now the mind becomes signless. Now one would develop that more and more. Now it becomes more familiar. And now you are able to quickly switch there even without the practice of Vipassana. Almost like samatha practice then. So there is no any momentum that you gather through a Vipassana practice. Rather, you are quite familiar with this result. Now you can simply switch your attention to the result. Sabba nimittanang amanasikaro. Now you are not paying attention to any signs. Animittayacha dhatuya manasikaro. You pay attention to the signless. Very beautiful way. I mean, sometimes it's difficult to understand how these things are stated like that in certain suttas. But as one is practicing, so these things has to be more tangible, more practical, available things for the yogi. Then it is true. And while there, are you exerting effort to maintain that? That's the other side. Or are you effortlessly maintaining that? So these are very interesting areas for us to explore as we continue our practice. Very subtle areas, very very small points, but very valuable. Yeah, yes. Please. No, I want your participation. Yeah. Off. So now you forgot the question?
Samma vacha is stay without speaking.
Sorry?
Samma vacha is stay without speaking.
Stay without speaking.
The root cause is vitakka and
vichara. Yes.
And then it stops.
No talk.
That's Sammavacha.
Exactly. And actually that is the thing. Now sometimes we say Samma Sati. So what is Samma Sati, for example? So at the beginning it's a deliberate, purposeful paying attention to something, otherwise mind get distracted, otherwise mind start thinking the past and the future. So it's a very purposeful, deliberate, effortful paying attention to something. Effortful mindfulness. And one might think, okay, this is the mindfulness. Very effortful and you have to purposely be there, otherwise mind get distracted. I have to be really vigilant, something like that. But later, it has to be more natural kind of awareness, isn't it? So you are maintaining mindfulness. It is not that you are with some very hard, effortful way you are maintaining mindfulness, but it's a more soft, gentle way you are maintaining mindfulness. And maybe at a later time, it's there. You have nothing to do. Mindfulness is there. Effortless mindfulness. It's there. So Samma Sati, in that sense, has to be almost like you don't need to do anything to have mindfulness because it is there. That's why in the one sutta that Unnaba Brahmana Sutta, when the question asked, so what is the refuge for the mind? So Buddha simply says the mindfulness is the refuge. Satiko Brahmana Manassa Patisarma. So mindfulness is a refuge for the mindfulness. Then he asked the interesting question, what is the refuge for mindfulness? So I already mentioned this sutta some time back. So can you remember the answer? So Vimuttya ko Brahmana Satya Patisarana. So Vimutti, the freedom of the mind. So when mind is freed, when it is almost like objectless, nothing is there, empty, you don't need to do anything to be mindful. You are mindful, naturally. Something like that. So therefore, as you stated, so more and more things have to be effortless, and talk maybe no talk, silent, and not only the physical talking, even the inner chatter, that also has to be stopped.
So that's what they said, no
Vitakka vichara also has to completely subside. No vitakka vichara. Mind is experiencing calmness, peacefulness. No vitakka vichara. No any restlessness in the mind. Because vitakka vichara represents certain amount of restlessness in a way. Isn't it? It's again jump to an object, be there, touch it. Again jump to another object, be there, touch it. So that's a friction to the mind. A little bit of restless nature of the mind. So that also has to be wiped out. So the mind is there. Be quiet. Be still. Interesting. Yeah. Definitely. So that's why.
Are we?
Yeah, I mean that's why that's what we need to give the proper focus to us. So this is the aim. That's it. This is the aim. So don't think that we are going for a thinking mind as the Arahant mind. Arahant mind is a very calm, quiet, peaceful mind. That's what stated even in the Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta. Sabba manyatanantveva samatikkamo bhikkhu muni santoti uchati. When all the manjana, all the conceiving is completely abandoned, so he is a peaceful sage. You can see, we need to get the proper direction to our practice. So where this practice is leading us. So that is the Sammaditthi, isn't it? So this is the Sammaditthi. We are maintaining, okay, this is the direction I have to move forward. So the restlessness has to be reduced. Prapancha has to be cut off. Manjana has to be cut off. So the mind become more quiet, still, peaceful. So this is the direction. It doesn't mean that we are completely restless, completely chattering and completely proliferating and ultimately immediately we achieve that. But we need to time experience this complete quietude, complete stillness, completely restful state, time to time. That means that Arahant state of mind we may experience for a moment, for a little bit of time, but we can't have it forever. That's true. Yeah.
Thank
you
you
have
for
a question?
that.
Yeah, that's a question. Yeah.
Hello.
Can. Yeah.
So, I want to, my life, now daily life, when I do everything, it's like Satarasatipatthana.
Correct.
Actually, when I come to this, especially meditation, we have to like take Sammavayama, thinking. But daily life, it always comes all the four together. Naturally comes. So I wanted to ask whether now is it okay? But I want to like Vipassana. I want to improve my Vipassana. That's why I'm coming here.
Mm-hmm.
So daily life, every four come in when I do my daily chorus, activities. Everything comes together.
Mm-hmm.
Chittanupassana, so then Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, and then Dhammanupassana, Anitya Dukkha Anatma.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't like memorizing, it comes and goes. I feel Vedananupassana, and I know sometimes my thoughts are blank, but sometimes I can't verify what are the thoughts, Sometimes.
Sorry, what is?
I can't verify the thoughts. Sometimes it is like that.
So, then better, actually, when your mind become blank like that, since there are no thoughts at all, so better be familiar with that state. Because you know that we already discussed, so dealing with these different phenomena is one level. And understanding their true nature and letting go of them, and then you are staying at that calmness is another level. So we need to promote that calmness, so the complete detached state, unattached state, independent state, non-grasping state, we need to promote and we need to dwell in it. So therefore, if you have the skill to dwell in it, be there. So that's why, Katukurunde Jnananda Thero, he's giving a very beautiful simile to the Satarasatipatthana. It's like a scaffolding. In the construction field, we are using the scaffolding to build the building.
Yeah.
So we are using scaffolding, so to plastering and to build the walls and prepare maybe the roof and everything. We are using the scaffolding. So where are we going to ultimately reside? In the scaffolding? Where are we going to reside? In the building. So where are we now? Are you in the scaffolding or in the building? So remember, the scaffolding is the Satipatthana, building is the Anissitocha Viharati Nachakinchi Loke Upadiyati. So that is the building. So we are building, we are coming, that is the result. Remember that. It's a very beautiful, real analogy he's giving. So the result is the building. That's very beautiful, really interesting, serene kind of a result. But we need the scaffolding to build it. Satipatthanas are the four scaffolding, we can say. But don't reside in the scaffolding forever.
Now, it comes to my mind, but I don't purposely, like words, there's no words
please.
or anything.
Yeah. Sorry?
No words are coming. It
right.
comes and goes, and I understand that now it's like a Vedanava or then Chittanupassana. Dhammanupassana, sometimes I get little bit confused. But naturally it comes and goes, Only thing that is now when I come and sit here, I like purposely I'm doing something like that.
But anyway, if you are feeling more familiar, so here also you have to dwell there in a effortless way.
Yeah.
So it will happen naturally, because sometimes when we change the place, appear like little artificial, appear like different, you need certain amount of adjustment from your side. So, but later we should be able to maintain the same level at any place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So much.
Report number 4.
Hari.
Venerable Bhante. When beggar, I think this is from yesterday. When beggar is knocking at the door, who is making decision to open the door or not? Kindly explain the non-self nature there.
So, do you think that to make a decision that you need a self? So, that's the underneath presumption you have, assumption you have. In order to take a decision, there should be a self. But you can have an experience, you can have a decision without a self. That's an interesting area, isn't it? Very challenging, very interesting, and it's going against the grain. So, for our typical conventional thinking is, in order to act, there should be a person. In order to talk, there should be a person. In order to think, there should be a thinker, there should be a person. In order to see, there should be a seer. In order to listen, there should be a listener. So likewise, each and every activity we attribute to a person, we attribute to a self. But Buddha challenges telling, everything happens, but there is no self. So there may be a decision, but there is no self. So how many decisions Buddha have taken? Now say for example, certain monks have gone through some stupid situation, for example. Just to give one example, I think King Bimbisara. So he has kept certain wood at a certain area. So one monk thought, okay, I better steal this wood to prepare a hut, a kuti. And then he stolen. And then the news gone to the Buddha, okay, through the king, okay, so and so has stolen the wood from the king's stores. So ultimately it came to the Buddha. Buddha put the second parajika. Anyone purposefully stealing will be no more a upasampada bhikkhu. He'll be banished. That's a decision. Who has taken the decision? A self? Buddha has taken the decision. So you can simply say Buddha has taken the decision. Depending on the circumstances, he has seen the situation and analyzed, okay, if it continues like this, the people will, argue, people will criticize that monks are stealing. So this should be very critical activity, I should stop it. So this is the common, law of the country. So monks also have to abide by that. You should avoid stealing altogether. So he put a rule. So that is necessary. So we can't say it's a person who has put a rule. Circumstances were there. Conditions were prepared to establish the rule. So the rule was established. So likewise, there are many, many rules in the Vinaya Pitaka. So he has taken decisions. Monks are taking different scenarios, different situations to the Buddha. And he has to question the monks. You did that, you told that, or this and that. Then has to blame someone, have to criticize someone, or to uplift someone, encourage someone. All that is done. Those are all decisions. But Buddha is the Buddha. During his enlightenment, so we can say simply, we can't say he is a person anymore. That's why Tathagata is not a person. Is Tathagata a person? So that typical our way of looking at things. Okay, there is a person here, he is talking, he is preaching and all that is not applicable to the Tathagata. That's being penetrated by the Tathagata. That's a very interesting area we are actually talking, and some advanced area. What we need to understand is when one becomes an Arahant, so all those typical, conventional, deluded type of references are no more. So once that I-making, mind-making is completely abandoned, so Buddha may not have any kind of I-referencing or self-referencing anymore. But still he is functioning as the Buddha, as the Arahant. So it's difficult to understand anyway, we'll see. Yeah, please. That's a question.
No, it's only a legal question.
Uh-huh.
Now, the Parajika clause was imposed after the
event.
Event.
Correct.
So, is it In the Parajika, still that monk is he getting under Parajika or is it after?
After that, yes. Always the first doer is exempted.
Exempted. So he didn't get...
because there was no rule.
No rule.
Adhikammikas, that is the, what's that, it's called anapatti. Anapatti is no transgression for the first doer. So don't be the first doer. Interesting.
Okay. Report number 5. Dear Bhante, when any pleasure feeling comes, example to go on a picnic, is it enough to think this pleasure feeling is a mirage? Even this thought also appear and disappear, within brackets, hatagena nathi venawa. Why Bhante, any pleasure wraps with lots of suffering, adinava ashwadaya. Thinking about adinava always remind me this life is full of danger.
Many techniques are there. So, if nothing works, you can go to the picnics. You can go for the journey. But adinava is, knowing the adinava, knowing the danger is one approach. And seeing that, not the task, but that's a sign appearing in your mind. Or that's a thought appearing in your mind. And seeing how it is coming and going without going to the content. Okay, there's a sign, there's a thought, it's a mere thought. It came and it went. And gone. You don't need to follow it, you don't need to work according to it. There is no agreement that we need to essentially follow any of these thoughts. So likewise, how are we going to decide then what to act? It depends on that time, at that moment while you are being mindful, your wisdom may have to decide whether it is a useful activity which is proposing at that moment through a thought, whether I have to follow it, whether I act according to it, or I can simply ignore it, it is not necessary. So that's the mindfulness and clear comprehension, sati and panya, how to decide it. And that decision is not a person, as sati and panya we can say. Mindfulness and clear comprehensions or wisdom interacting each other, and it's coming up a solution. Not a personal decision. Isn't it? So all these are happening like that, but the stupid thing is we attribute a person to each and every activity, each and every decision making, each and every our experience. We attribute a person. But the practice helps us to step out of that personality related experience and being in an impersonal level and see how you make a person. Isn't it? So you are able to step out of this stupid thing, and now you are at a more wise level, without a person, without a being, without a self. And now you see how a person is created because of ignorance, because of avidya, because of, the foolishness. Again, eye-making happen. Again, a person is appearing. That you need to notice it, that you need to recognize, and then netam mama neso hamasmi na meso attati. It's not me, not myself. I don't need it. No point of affirming a self anymore. Something like that. So actually, today Dhamma sermon also related to some areas of that. So we'll further look into it. Yeah.
Report number 6. Dear Bhante, as you mentioned yesterday, so lust is something normal as we have desire towards food, clothing. Same method has to use to eradicate the desire towards that. ? Why we fear towards lust? To remove the lust, please explain the methods steps wise. How about Asubha Bhavanava, or to ignore it as just a thought? Explain using Vipassana too. What is the danger of lust? Adinava. She said Adinava Passanava. I really don't know.
Adinava Anupassana.
No?
Adinava Anupassana is, I think that's another, that's also included. Can.
That's
I think, so we can simply say the desire, the tanha, the craving, maybe towards the food, maybe towards the clothing, maybe towards some, the opposite sex. And all that different variety of areas are there for our greed. So everything is based on that greed. So the root is the greed, what we call the loba mula. So the greed is the underneath the culprit. That's the root, and there are many manifestations. Maybe to the clothes, to the husband, to the wife, to the children, to the house, to the car, to the presidency, to the ministry, whatever. So many different things are there. But the point is, there is no end of this, isn't it? So by fulfilling these desires, you can't find a solution. Endless. So ultimately, we end up with an endless type of desire. So once one is satisfied, another desire is there. Once it is satisfied, another desire is there. It's an endless trap in a way. So the solution Buddha promotes is the kind of recognizing it and abandoning it. So in the second satcha, dukkha samudayang ariya satchang pahatabbang. So the tanha, the craving, has to be abandoned. Not a forceful abandonment, rather you see it, don't promote it, you recognize it and just keep it aside. A soft keeping it aside. So that, even though we say like that, it's not easy. Because whenever a desire arises in the mind, it has a temptation to implement. That's why we can theoretically say, you need to let go of the desire, you need to let go of the desire. Easy to say like that. But when a desire arises in the mind, there's a huge temptation coming to implement it. So that's the problem. So that is more prominent in the lustful sensation. To look at someone and to touch someone, to feel someone and all that, what is related to the sensuality. So these are some innate, very, intricate kind of desires. So that is what actually continuing our existence. So from generation to generation, our existence is more preserved through these instinctual desires. And we all have that. We are product of that, in a way. So we need to admit that. So this is here in this mind also, it is there. We need to admit it very humble way, rather than rejecting it, rather than saying, okay, I am a saint, I don't have that. Don't tell me, okay, I am a saint, I don't have that lust anymore. So rather than telling like that, okay, time to time you see how such lust arising in the mind. Okay, recognize it, see it. Don't blame yourself for having it, but see it, but don't promote it. That's the problem. That's the area. So don't promote it anymore now. So there is a lust arising, maybe to another person, but recognize it, don't promote it. See, there is no person, or there is no person here either. Or as you said, probably you can use the Asubha Bhavana. So Asubha Bhavana is one area to counteract. So in order to counteract lust, you develop the loathsomeness. Seeing that there is no internally there is no person there, or internally all these things are really dirty, loathsome. There is no real inner truth, a realistic type of beauty there. So it's our illusionary mind think that they are beautiful, but internally they are not really beautiful. They are covered with a lot of, blood and pus and all that dirty stuff. Internally they don't have such a beauty. Because of our foolishness, we see things as beautiful, as a vipallasa. So asubha, when things are really asubha, when things are really loathsome, we attribute something beauty artificially because of our habit, because of our, we can say, craving, or we can say the ignorance. So more we understand thoroughly, so slowly, so the lust has to be reduced and the craving has to be reduced. And even when you see a beautiful thing or person or anything, so your mind still may look at it, but without a lust. So it is not that every time we are trying to promote the Indriya Samvara. So you close your eyes, you don't go there, you abandon that altogether, and you don't talk with them and all that. That is also one way of looking at it. That's also accepted by the Buddha, Samvara Pahatabba. So you maintain Indriya Samvara. And maybe even Parivajjana Pahatabba, you avoid going there, like that. That's also included. But the more profound thing is, when it is arising in the mind, look at it, see it, maybe understand the adinava, the danger, if it promotes what happened to the mind, and knowing that, slowly keep it aside. It's a slow process. So that's the problem. So I sometimes even talk, I already talked with Bhante Dhammaji also, now sometimes people say that I am an anagami, I am an arahant, so like that people are claiming that I am an arahant, I am an anagami. But when you start practicing, only you may understand how difficult it is to abandon anger and lust. Not an easy task. Because an anagami is a person who has no lust at all, who has no anger at all. And how to achieve it? Not a joke actually. It's a real task, it's a hard work. You don't have lust while you are dealing with a grandmother or grandfather. But with a very beautiful woman, maybe, who knows? That we need to verify. So that's a problem. So therefore we can't give an assurance to the mind, to us, telling I am an anagami now, I have no lust now, no greed now, no hatred now, I am quite sure about it now. Very difficult. Very, very difficult. That's why we have to be very humble, very realistic, down to earth, and maybe still it's there. Such kind of a admittance may be helpful to be careful then, and see always there may be a possibility for them to arise. And we have to deal with the others and see how the mind is reacting. So therefore, many methods Buddha has given. One thing is the association of the asubha, the loathsomeness, that is one area. The other thing is seeing these things properly, truly, developing more wisdom, and maintaining the mind in the signless, in the emptiness, in all that. So all that are recommended methods, but a slow process. Yeah.
Bhante, these desires are something to do with your personal traits also?
Definitely.
Yeah. So is there a way that for us to identify our personal traits, like,
Yeah, that's from the desire. So the personal traits are there. So their manifestation is through a desire.
Yeah.
So now say, for example, one person may like chocolates. Another person may like flowers. Just to give a typical example. So when chocolates and flowers are there, say you go in front of that, which one you pick, which one you choose. So that represents the trait in the mind. So you need to be careful, okay, this is every time I pick this one. There's an additional desire for this type of food, additional desire for this kind of an activity in this mind. So as an impersonal we need to understand, okay, this mind is programmed in such a way, it has a directed disposition to select this type of a food, this type of a color, this kind of a people, this kind of an activity. So that's why, one person may like politics, one person may like sports, another person may like another thing. So many different things are there. So we have our own personal choices or preferences based on our traits. Very complicated in a way. Wrong program. We need to add the, debugging process now. You got to debug the mind. Many bugs. Isn't it, Tusta? Any bugs?
Those are all the written questions. So if you all have anything to discuss, you may raise your hand.
Okay, I invite you to debug the system then. So we'll wind up the session. Thank you very much for participation.
Sermon is at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, okay, 4 o'clock.